We need to put out the cocktail a day before so that people can drink it with us.
I know.
I'm not, this is not a judgment. This is just trying to improve trying to improve.
Brand management is
Brand
really what we're
management. Hi,
about.
Nancy. Hi,
I'm
everybody.
sitting here holding a cocktail shaker like a drunk.
We really need a cocktail now after what the hell is going on with Substack.
I don't know.
I'm going to just do a little rant on Substack for a few minutes, which I was going to do anyway. And I did it in my last post.
I'll just sit here looking like an alcoholic. All good.
Just drink away. I hope everybody saw Danny's back with the cocktail.
You rant, and then I'll say my cocktail.
But I don't have a kaffir lime, so I just have a regular gimlet. Lime juice. It's with the real lime juice.
Do your rant.
We had some technical difficulties with Substack. It took us like 10 minutes to figure it out. We're not exactly, I mean, I've been in television for 20 years, but I'm maybe more, but I'm still not technologically advanced. But anyway, there were a lot of Substack problems. Maybe you're having them too. If you do, let us know, because we'll let Substack know. And but my biggest rant on Substack right now is about how it's become like Twitter, in the sense, I like the notes feature that you could put out notes and you could, communicate, but it's becoming, just this opportunity for everybody to go into their echo chambers. And Substack was really, the idea behind it was get all these independent writers, many different points of view, and be able to open up your perspective, which is what we try to do with this show. Obviously, we have different perspectives on a lot, but, we do agree on a lot. And I think we have kind of nuanced, complex conversations. Sometimes we bitch at each other, but it's, at the end of the day, we try to understand an alternative point of view. And many of you have written that you do the same. But lately I find that it's all, the people that are doing the best on this platform are Trump's a fascist. This is, a fascist state. And look, I've written, I have a lot of problems with Trump, but they're a little bit more nuanced than Trump's a fascist. And I'm going to have my friend Larry Diamond back in a few weeks, because he dislikes Trump more than anyone, but he thinks that the word fascism is being really botched, because what he thinks is happening is not fascism, but something else closer to like a liberal democracy. Or we can have another discussion on that. But what I find is that, like, we're not here to whine. I mean, we do whine. And
I think you've been whining.
And we drink wine, but we do try to have more of a policy discussion about the ins and outs. And we hope you appreciate it. But I just encourage you. There are a lot of great writers here that have reporting and that have nuance and continue to, find your rants among all the writers. But, just try to seek out alternative points of view. And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree with you. If anybody, I don't know if you all remember me I got on Blue Sky, and I haven't been back, but I wrote a piece about it. We'll put it in the show notes, which I would theoretically make a note if I was keeping notes. All right, wait. Since Elise said
the show notes.
I know. Elise said last week we need to bring back the cocktails, so I brought back a cocktail. Elise now tells me correctly that I should have put the recipe out yesterday, but I only did it today. Next time I'll put it out. So
if you guys are going to join us, this is if you're not drinking, you can make a mocktail. She's going to do, and I'm also volunteering her for a mocktail version.
Oh, yeah, well. It's harder. A mocktail version of this is harder because this is a straight up martini. So what's in this?
Danny not know of mocktail.
I know mocktail. Wait, want to hear what's in it? Want to hear what's in it?
Yes, I do.
See, it's gin infused with kaffir lime leaves. Half the people are going to go, what the hell are kaffir lime leaves? What Elise knows about me is that I've got a tropical forest in my Northern Virginia house. I have bananas, bougainvillea, oranges, lemons, limes, and a kaffir lime, which is more of an Asian flavor. They sell the leaves at H Mart and places like that. It's a beautiful, beautiful taste, and I recommend it to you. I infused my gin with it. It's gin, lime juice, and simple syrup. That's all. I'm going to shake it, so don't talk a second, Elise, and then we will start up. Hang on one second. Now talk.
Okay. The shutdown is over. What really bothers me is, look, I think you and I disagree slightly on Epstein in the sense that
I'm
uh,
so bored by it.
I, I'm bored by it, but I also feel as if there needs to be accountability at some point for the victims. I think if there were powerful people, Democrat or Republican, we should know about it. I think that the government, I mean, I would say that they can walk and chew gum at the same time and hold the Epstein, suspects or, accused uh, accountable while running the government, but they can't do either. But um, but I just think like, oh, we were talking about the shutdown for, the last 40 days. And now that the shutdown is over, we're not talking about what's still going on at the airports. We're not talking about the ACA subsidies, which of one I am a recipient of. And I'm like, just got um my new premium, which is triple. I was paying about, I don't know, 600. Now I'm paying about 1700 come January. So I'm concerned about that. But all anybody in the media can talk to about today is Epstein and not about, the victims, but about the
Trump.
emails between Trump and Michael Wolff and Epstein and Michael Wolff and what's Trump involved. Look, I don't know that he trafficked. I don't know that he slept with young women. He knows something, but I just feel like right now I don't want to hear about it.
Good. Let's stop talking about it then. I agree with you
But I do want to say
wholeheartedly.
one thing about Michael Wolff.
Oh, please do. So
Okay,
tell everybody who Michael Wolff is.
Michael Wolff is a political journalist. He was with the New York Magazine for many years, and then I don't know. He wrote a lot of books, and he's a political journalist. But some of these emails between Epstein and Michael Wolff, and you're going to say, "Oh, I thought you're sick of Epstein." It's not about Epstein, really. It's about Michael Wolff telling Epstein, "Oh, I know how you could stick it to Trump." This isn't about Trump either. It's about this access journalism that is pervasive all around, but mostly in political journalism in Washington, where in order to get sources to open up to you and to acquiesce, and you think they're your friends, they basically, you
Become
know,
part of your partisan
they
operation.
become part of your operation. And so Wolf was like, oh, I think he was giving Epstein advice on what to do about Trump. And, look, I've had diplomats call me and ask me, like, what do you think you should do about this, that, the other thing? And usually what I say is, well, as a journalist, these are the questions I'd be asking. But I don't give, advice to diplomats on how to do their job.
Mhm.
And I think this access journalism, which is, you know, it's really one of the things that's I think part of the reason that people distrust the media so much.
There you go.
And they're becoming a player in the story. And Wolf was writing a book about Trump and at the same time telling Epstein how to go after Trump. Anyway, enough said. I said I didn't want to talk about Epstein, but the things surrounding it, like, why are we talking about this when there were so many, this is not the biggest news of the world right now. I think that they should
Let's
still
move on.
I think they should still handle the case. I think that Ghislaine Maxwell should not be released, but I don't it's not keeping me up at night, put it that way. Even though I do,
You keep saying you're going to stop, and then you have another, and then you have another thing. You're like
okay,
Columbo.
okay.
And I want you to talk. Everybody knows because you've heard me say it 1,000 times. I don't care about. I don't care about Epstein. I don't care about Trump and Epstein. I don't care about Biden and Epstein. I don't care about Clinton and Epstein. I don't care about any of it. I'm done. It's people are gross. That's the way it is. Okay, we've moved on. You wrote a fantastic piece. Our mutual friend Veronique sent it to me earlier this week and said this is really great about Donald Trump's meeting with Ahmed Ashara. And so to read folks in who are not obsessively paying attention to what happens in the White House and what happens in the Middle East for my sins, Ahmed Ashara the former member of Al Qaeda, who ousted Assad from power, came and first Syrian leader to meet at the White House, the President of the United States, had what I could best describe as a pretty love-festy meeting in Washington,
A warm
D.C.
meeting, a warm welcome.
Certainly very warm. Tell everybody, we'll put it in the show notes, but tell everybody a little bit about what you wrote, because I thought it was an outstanding piece.
Okay, let's remember who this guy is, right? In Iraq, he was one of the leaders of the ISIS chapter, if you want to call it, or affiliate of of Iraq. Al-Nusra, he was the head of Al-Nusra. And then he formed this other militia group,
Hayat Tahrir Hashem, HTS.
HTS.
You're welcome, Lana.
And then he was pretty he was the leader of that group that helped overthrow Assad. He was helped by the Turks. He was helped, we think, we're not 100% sure what they did, but we think the Israelis were supportive, at least, at the very least, even as they were concerned about his Islamic leanings. Anyway, they overthrew Assad. And, basically, I think this is part of the mastermind of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who really pushed President Trump when he was in the region to meet with al-Shah, try to integrate him into the region and Syria back into the kind of Arab fold because of stability. Because I think they're worried about stability in the region. I think there is some concern about.
They're also worried about Iran. So they're worried about
Right.
the fact that Syria really, it's not simply for people who don't also look at the map of the Middle East all the time, although that's just Jerusalem behind me. It's important to understand that Syria under Assad was a major entrepot. It was the pathway for Iranian weapons experimentation. They did missile testing in Syria. They probably, at least in my estimation, had a nuclear program that was in Syria that the Israelis took out.
Well, yeah, the Israelis took it out. That was supported by North Korea.
Right. And so, it's not just to get Syria back into the Arab fold. It's to ensure that Syria is stable enough that it doesn't become an Iranian proxy again, because it truly was important. Keep going.
And also they want Syria, they want him to go after his old, friends in ISIS. And so President Trump has lifted sanctions. They took Syria off the state sponsor of terrorism list. They did a lot of things to make it possible for the Syrians to rebuild. There's a huge reconstruction challenge from the war, as we know, tens of billions of dollars. And he also likes the idea, like, even though there's this concern about his previous Islamic leanings, he's tough, he's good looking, he's a fighter. Trump likes him and welcomed him to the White House. He was playing basketball with, CENTCOM commanders at one of the military bases this weekend. And this former, terrorist who had a $10 million bounty on his head is now being welcomed at the White House. The optics are pretty, I said in my piece, and I'll send it around. I think you'll like it. This, like, if anyone's watching The Diplomat right now, you love it. It's a great show. None of it is believable. Okay. None of this really happens in diplomacy, but, here it is happening. And talk about your ambivalence about this, because I think it's an interesting twist on how to look at it.
Right. So Elise and I had a long conversation about this during the week. Look, there have been a lot of cautionary tales told about Ashara. There is a desire on the part of the United States and the Europeans, for convenience's sake, to just, tabula rasa, to wipe his slate clean. But there are a number of things that have happened that have been really concerning, and they're very concerning to particularly people who support the Druze in southern Syria, people who are concerned about revenge killings, the Alawites, that's the sect of former President Assad, but also the number of what people like to call former fighters, but what that really means is terrorists who have been integrated And then, of course, there's the really important question of the SDF, right? The Syrian Democratic Forces, which are mostly Kurdish in the northeast. Now, just to digress for 10 seconds on this, so folks can understand, the Syrian Democratic Forces have been our America's ally for the last 10
Helped
years.
us overthrow ISIS.
They helped us overthrow ISIS, but on top of that, there are about 10,000 hardened ISIS fighters and their families in 2 camps in that part of Syria, which are guarded by these guys. And so, as Ashara and his, let's say, National Army have fought with them, that has diminished our security, and that's been a bad thing too. And so people are working on that. Donald Trump is approaching this from a, you're part of the team. You're going to be with us. You're going to do these good things. I think because he's hoping that he's going to do these good things. The truth is, we have to have forces on the ground there. Donald Trump committed to keeping forces and putting some additional forces on the ground there. But this is a high-risk situation, and if something goes wrong, and something went very wrong in the south when allies of Ashara killed a whole bunch of Druze, who are, a different part of Islam, not,
Who
you know.
let's
So,
who
so anyway,
Israel
just to finish,
go into the
for
Israel part though.
so the Israelis came in and defended the Druze, which is what I was about to say. But thank you. The Israelis came in, they defended the Druze, they fought back the Syrian government forces, Ashara's forces, and there were a lot of executions, there were a lot of arbitrary killings, there were families were murdered. This is a really, really terrible situation. And people here in the United States who have been nervous about Ashara basically looked to this and said, you see, that's who he is. That's who he's always going to be. He's going to kill our allies. He's going to kill Israel's allies. And this is the argument that's going on. For me, what I raised with Elise is this very, very difficult question of whether Islamists can play a role in politics. And I think it's a very hard question, and there's no simple answer. When we talked about it, she reminded me, right, because when we saw Morsi take over from Mubarak after Mubarak was overthrown, Morsi, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, was a disaster, sought instantaneously to change the Egyptian constitution. So, he then got thrown out by the Egyptian military and by General Sisi, who is Mubarak number 2, the new Egyptian secular dictator. This is the worry. What is Ashara's game? Is he really reformed? We know people can really reform. Is he really reformed? Is this just a head fake? Is he another Assad but an Islamist? And I don't know the answer to that question. And this is really where the point that you make, Elise, is so important. And I really commend the whole piece to everybody. But the point you make is so important. This is fine as long as we're on our game. This is fine as long as we are monitoring the situation, we are keeping up the guardrails, we are keeping an eye on who is up to what in Damascus, and we are ensuring that our enemies, ISIS, Al Qaeda, who still remain in northern Syria in prison, are actually remaining there, right? And that's what's needed. And unfortunately, big gestures are the Trump administration's sweet spot. But the follow through, the boring maintenance stuff, right? That is not what they're great at, and this is really worrisome. So,
Yeah.
that's the conversation.
Yeah, the question is not whether, we're offended by some former, ISIS guy came to the White House. The question is whether, this stabilizes the region, if Syria is going to move in a positive direction, if working with the Saudis and others can help rebuild Syria, be a bulwark against Iran, be a bulwark against on our game are we? Not really on our game yet, but we'll see. Just quickly, I want to point out, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it next week too. There's a lot of violence in the West Bank, settler violence right now.
Yes, yes.
This is really concerning because it could be, like a real powder keg. 264 attacks in October alone of settler violence, and the government has come out pretty strong about it. But basically, these settlers they're extremists, considered extremist settlers. They don't care. And they're like, we're not afraid of, we're not afraid of Avi Bluth. That's the major general, top commander in the West Bank. They don't give a shit. Like these guys, these are the ones. These are not the ones, but these are the type of people that were responsible for the assassination of Itzhak Rabin. So that tells you how extreme they are. They don't want Palestinians in the West Bank. They consider it theirs, but it could be, a real powder keg. And Marco Rubio said, yeah, there's maybe some concern that it could hurt what's going on in Gaza. I think it's very concerning. I think we'll need to watch it, but we'll see what happens. We have a couple of minutes left. You want to talk about the shutdown and,
No, I want to talk
talk
about
about the
settlers in the
filibuster?
West Bank. Elise, you're right. There are a lot of nasty people in the West Bank. There are also a lot of good people in the West Bank. And again, I don't think either you or I would choose to settle as Jews in the West Bank for a whole variety of reasons. But this is not the thing that's going to derail the beautiful two-state solution. I can promise you that. First of all, we're seeing. Thank you, Lotta. Um, we are seeing a lot of Palestinian and Hamas-style violence moving to the West Bank because the presence in Gaza is so overwhelming.
Right.
The Iranians are fomenting that insofar as is possible. And so we do have an unfolding situation that I think is dangerous. The problem is it is going to be eclipsed at all times by this problem that you and I just talked about on Syria, just to have a little theme here, which is the follow-through problem. Donald Trump's 20-point plan, I think, was great. Okay, great. Hostages are home, ended the war, terrific. Not giving stuff away, although there's some worry about that right now that is too boring for you guys, but I'm going to write about it next week. But the problem is, who's disarming Hamas? Nobody. Who are the forces? Who are the forces that are going to be on the ground? The multinational force? I don't know, but we don't really seem to be moving in that direction. Is there a plan to rebuild Gaza? Maybe there's a plan to rebuild Gaza, and I get that there are people in the Gulf who may be willing to pay for it, but you can't rebuild Gaza unless you have some security and stability. There's this idea of having a bifurcated Gaza. This is not a great idea. And Elise and I can talk more about it next week. You guys can message us if you're particularly interested in that. But here's the problem. It's really great to have a summit. The president loves the summit, and God bless him, that's fine, right? He did a good job, did a hell of a job. That's great. The problem is we don't have an assistant secretary of state for Middle East affairs. They just withdrew the guy they had before the Senate. We don't really.
They took out Joe Ray. They withdrew his nomination.
Yeah. Then they don't have a very seriously functioning National Security Council, and of course Marco Rubio, who in addition to being Secretary of State and National Security Advisor and head of the archives, is also coming by tomorrow to pick up your recycling. And it's hard to be on top. I think he's pro composting, but I'm not sure.
I think he's anti composting, but I might throw a tomato at him. I don't know.
But there's the problem. What this requires is not the president. This requires the grunts. This requires the people who are going to do the work. I get that Jared Kushner is trying to do some. Steve Witkoff is trying to do some. But this is what you and I were just talking about on Syria. You need staff. Now do you want to talk about what was at the end of our list?
Well, I just think the shutdown is over. Two last things. We started 5 minutes late, so we'll go 5 minutes more. The shutdown is over. It's going to take a while for the, wheels to start turning again. The airports are a nightmare. I think it'll probably be relieved before Thanksgiving, but, I think it's left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And
That's why we're talking about Epstein, Elise, because the Democrats
Yeah.
wanted to change the
Well,
subject.
yeah,
But
I
but
don't disagree. I don't disagree. Whatever happened to, we got to keep fighting for healthcare. I'd like them to keep talking about healthcare, frankly.
Elise is very focused on this as a
I
personal matter. I know, I get it. I get it. Listen, the
But
one
also,
thing
you guys could also up your paid subscriptions and pay for my healthcare, and that'd be fine. But
please, people,
I am concerned about it. And
look,
then,
and
go ahead.
I wanted to add something because Mark and I talked about it on the podcast that we released this morning, which I hope people will really like. And that's this incredibly stupid idea on the part of the president to end the filibuster. So, again, I mean, filibuster, it's like all of you are starting to sort of glaze over and think to yourself, where can I buy a cafe or lime tree? On Etsy, by the way, is where I bought mine. But
Or you could cut me a little clipping.
I could cut Elise a little clipping, but the rest of you, I'm not sure. Uh, but seriously, it's important to understand. Thank you, Lana. It is important to understand that the House of Representatives is a dictatorship. Okay, it always has been. That's how it's constructed. The Speaker of the House is the dictator. That's how it works. The Senate is a democracy because you need 60 votes to proceed to a debate. That's the way it works. If you end the filibuster, what it means is 51 votes. What does that mean? It means anything goes, right? For the majority. And Mark and I spent a lot of time talking to Marty Gold, who's a fabulous expert on this, and you guys will love him. So listen to it, please. And we'll put it in the show notes as well. But what this means for the Democrats is you can pack the Supreme Court, you can let additional states into the Union, Puerto Rico, the District of Columbia, Guam now wants in, apparently. You can also increase the size of the House of Representatives. People don't understand that that's one of the things that the Senate could do. If you increase the size of the House of Representatives, you increase the size of the Electoral College. You really do you do see this, but we as conservatives, Mark and I, were focused on those things. Guess what? When the Republicans get in, they may have a hard time reversing some of that, but you want to talk about your pro-choice priorities. You want to talk about your health care and social welfare net priorities.
Do whatever they want. It's
You
the
want to
only
talk
thing that's keeping us from really
mob rule.
being
Mob rule.
along complete party lines.
Right. And Lana, that's exactly it. Donald Trump is going to be president for another 3 years.
Or more.
And then there's going to be another, and then there's going to be another president. And he's only focused on those 3 years, which is why he wants the filibuster gone, because he wants his boys to get his stuff done right away, because he's got a short attention span. But there's always going to be another party in power. And for some reason, our leadership, Chuck Schumer wanted to get rid of the filibuster, and Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin stopped him. Right? Who's going to be the party that stops the next efforts to do this? This is a terrible, terrible idea.
That's
and the
why
more
John Thune, to his credit, was like,
no way, exactly.
That's
And
no
to
way to
and
say.
and really, really, to his credit, told Trump to go away and to shut up. And I thought that was smart and courageous. Yeah, it's been a shitty week in Washington. I mean, it really has. Nothing. There's very, very little that can make you proud this week, and it's a bit
Except the Cure Fear.
the cafe lime. Yeah,
No,
but look. Go ahead.
the government, I never
It's
used to be
dysfunction.
one of those people that went on about how our government doesn't work. And, I mean, it's just so we're the most technologically advanced, sophisticated, strongest military, richest nation on earth. And our Congress is just a bunch of, I don't know what the word is. I'm going to come up with it.
I don't know, but it's a bipartisan problem. It's a bipartisan problem. It really is.
It's a bipartisan problem. It's a bipartisan problem. I'm going to find the word, and Danny and I are going to come up with it and put it in the show notes. But I'm sure there's a cartoon character.
Yeah, look, there's a lot that needs to be fixed, and I have a personal a tiny rant after you started out on your very correct and totally accurate Substack rant. And that is, you know how the airlines got screwed up last week because the government was shut down and the air traffic controllers weren't being paid and yada, 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 yada. Do you guys know that
That's true, Lana. Yes, we are
our
aware.
air traffic, you are totally right. Our air traffic control system is basically the same system that it was in the 1940s. We have not updated it. Even the Canadians have updated theirs. Even the Europeans have updated theirs. Only we have not done this. And one of the outcomes of this last week of watching chaos at the airports and understanding that government control is not always the best thing is actually demanding that our airports are run differently, that our air traffic control is run differently, that there are, I hate to say this, more computers and fewer pieces of paper, which is
And
how
look,
it gets done.
we're moving towards being like the Jetsons. There's going to be more drones. There's going to be more flying vehicles in the, not too distant future, I think. And we really need to get a hold of it. I'm gonna also put in the show notes. If anyone watches Saturday Night Live, I'm a fanatic.
Are
Which
you really?
shows how early I get home on a Saturday night if I go out. But Bad Bunny did this thing where he was part of the air traffic control,
Yeah.
and it just shows it just takes fun at air traffic controllers that, like, you know, they want to do a good job, but there's just so much going on that yeah, we need some help.
We need
Anyway,
some help. We started late. I'm very sorry. This time, it was not my
wasn't
charger. It wasn't Elisa's internet. It wasn't Elisa's mom's house. It wasn't Danny being overseas. It was Substack. We'll try and get to the bottom of it. If you guys had problems as well, please do let us know because they're very
Yeah.
responsive to
And
us.
also, look, send us topics. You see an article, send it to us. We'll talk about it. Let's get more of a discussion going during the week. Maybe I'll start something in the chat. So people can, let us know what's on your mind, and we'll talk about it next week. Good to see you, everybody.
Oh, bye,
Ciao.
Elise.
Bye.